Welcome, everyone. This is day 6 of PRALER, the Planet Repairs Action Learning Education Revolution. We are here at Walter Rodney Freedom Square, and we're about to have a groundings on what is Planet Repairs, what is PRALER all about, why are we here, and then we're going to engage in short community dialogue. So essentially, this is about challenging the miseducation that takes place at the institution of SOAS and globally in our mass schooling and our universities everywhere, which basically trains us up to continue this neo-colonial capitalist regime of ecocide and genocide. So we're here saying that what we demand, what is needed, what our communities need globally, locally, is education that is actually for our liberation. And that is essentially why we're here, why we're PRALER, why this is brought forward by communities of resistance in the majority world, and why we're here with this program talking to you. So we've had a very long and eventful week. And I will let Kobina speak on some of the things we've talked about this week.
Yeah, so it's been a powerful launch, really to engage ourselves in what we call action learning. And in that learning through doing, through like critically working out how it is that when we reclaim space and when we assert our peoplehood, what are the needs and what are our responsibilities in 2022, when the world is changing so fast, when the needs of our communities are escalating, when violence, when militarizations, when anti-racism, when racism, and of course the resistance in many forms, when nuclear warfare and that threat is escalating because of the vulnerability of white supremacy and the white supremacist establishment. When food scarcity is a real reality for many parts of the global north who are dependent in their resources on the exploitation of our peoples. When young people, even in this country, can't get access to school meals. And when fascism is creeping up, not only in our communities and in communities who are insisting on maintaining this power dynamic, but it's also creeping up in the fear that is taking hold of people in order to not speak up, to not speak the truths that we know, and to not address the very real reality and threat of war and how that is impacting peoples of the world. We started the week with, we launched the week in dialogue with a global declaration of Planet Repairs action, brought by many communities and formations, understanding that there is a need more than ever that institutions are training places to serve community. Otherwise, they commit themselves to be training places for desk killers, to continue the genocidal and ecocidal trajectory of this establishment, that these places commit themselves to understudying real communities of resistance, and that students who want a liberated education also commit themselves to that practice, so that your degree becomes a place where our communities and our needs are met by the leadership of communities and the knowledge production that is happening within communities. And this is building concretely the world that we should have, when it should be that with all the needs we have in our communities, that no one is unemployed, because we're actually in service of the realities of what people need. Now, if institutions weren't so far removed from ordinary people, this would be a possibility. We've had conversations on what a liberated media looks like and how communities are organized to do that, and the harsh conditions and realities that's been done in, not only from the Radio Zapote organizing to build radio infrastructure in Mexico, to Creme TV in Cremandala, the only African independent media house in the whole of Belize, as well as to the Umbrella News Network. We've heard live from Gaza. We've heard about the youth of Samud and their struggle. We've also heard from students organizing in Edinburgh, where the national liberation question of actually being able to liberate Scotland from a tiny ruling class is also very much underway. And we'll continue to hear from communities, including we also heard from the Koshi Cox In Peru, organizing community cooperatives. These are the practical lessons that these institutions aren't producing. But communities are clearly showing us how we can lead ourselves out of this mess. And if we paid far more attention, then we actually know we can have this liberatory experience. And not only that, we know that it's a necessity that we connect our struggles. And these are the practical ways we can do it, when all it takes is, the infrastructure that really is already here to wake up to this reality and to put this in service of the change we're making. Today is the final day formally of the launch week from the Walter Rodney Freedom Square. And we will be hearing from the role of dance, music, and our culture in really being an essential part of our education. Because the many ways that we learn include dance, include singing, and that's where we store our knowledges. And later today we'll hear from not only music from the Bobobo indigenous Betoa dance group, but also from Grand Natila sound system and the role that music has played in actually organizing and moving things forward, as well as grassroots communities here who are using music to actually build real power, actually reorientate ourselves about the change that we're making, to make sure that our words, our speaking power, our building power. One of the workshops that we did and that we committed ourselves to in the practice of actual real solidarity and learning about the realities of the world was to highlight and emphasize the political imprisonment that these institutions represent for people around the world. Because they imprison the knowledge, they defend knowledge, they hoard it, and they also highlight and hide the violence at the end of this system. An example being an ex-SOAS student, Fahad Shah, the peer of one of our dear siblings, Sumana Nandi. And Fahad Shah was an ex-SOAS student who went back to Kashmir, and in Kashmir has been imprisoned, the 5th time he's been imprisoned this year, for co-founding a paper called The Kashmir Wala, which means Kashmiri people, speaking about the ordinary realities of people on the ground. Now, when our brothers and sisters speak up and are imprisoned back home, but we fail to do that here in support of them, then we aid that violence, and we therefore imprison ourselves by the fear which is more violently being imposed on them, not even us. So who are we not to speak up and to assert their names and to read their names and to make sure their names and faces are understood? Of course, Fahad Shah is one of many political prisoners that go nameless, many disappeared peoples. From the Take Out Action Ghana 10 to the violent disappearances of many in Chile, in Colombia, in the violent repression of imperialist oppression, again an occupation, the escalating war in Haiti right now as the US steps up to once again invade Haiti, where numbers and thousands of people have been organizing for national liberation. And so we co-wrote this letter that we committed to reading at all of our sessions. And it goes to Fahad Shah and all political prisoners, to Indian-administered Kashmir, the Valley of the Himalayas. We see you, we hear you, we are inspired by you, and your work continues to be heard. We are writing to you from the Walter Rodney Freedom Square, a reclaimed territory at SOAS. You are present here with us. There is still hope. We know your names and faces, and you are not alone. You have brought Kashmir and its struggle here. Your struggle goes on in many ways. The world is changing. Movements are taking power in Colombia, in Burkina Faso, in Haiti. We have powerful examples of mainstream formations for truth in so many parts of the world. We are sitting in a circle, once again, at the Walter Rodney Freedom Square, occupying a space and reclaiming a space in order to learn about you and the cause and the struggle of the majority world of people. Many of us do not know sometimes how to action and move in safety. But we are committed in sharing and making this cause known through our networks in Africa, in Abiyala, in Asia, in Europe. And we spoke that later today we would have a call with Liberated Media Networks in Mexico, Belize, and Uganda, who are actually continuing your work of communication, of telling the truth. So we assert that no cause can be held by prison. That means not only you and others, but the nation of Kashmir and all people struggling for liberation. We send our love and care from the heart of the Walter Rodney Freedom Square. So the final thing is to close out this introduction to the Planet Affairs Action and Education Revolution Day 6 launch by thinking about where we go from here. How do we share and ground these lessons in the reality? There's a very clear imperative, and communities have announced very, very clear demands, not only of students, not only of faculties, not only of institutions in this part of the world, but to all ordinary people of good conscience. Some of them were as clear as committing to study and work alongside our elder Miguel, who on Thursday invited us to actual learning with the community in educational programs. And PRALER commits itself to that type of work. Communities have asked for lawyers to speak up on the realities of their violent repression, of the land grabs, to organize themselves into the type of, PRALER cadres that will actually be committing themselves to that support. Communities have asked for the very basic truth of making sure that you share and speak openly in truth. Communities have asked for us, especially in this part of the world, to take a real responsibility when the ground we are walking on is drained still and is soiled still in the blood of millions and millions of people and continues to be drained in that blood. We heard yesterday from the economics panel that even an economic figure, an estimate of the cost of neocolonialism is $15 to $30 trillion every day. Now, what the actual cost is in human lives, in people, in land, obviously is unknowable. And none of us here account for the cost of human lives in the price of the dollar. But nevertheless, we know we've got work to do. We know we have to continue to learn together. And the Planet Repairs Action Learning Education Revolution is underway. We will not go away. And we will continue these groundings. Now, in ending that part of this discussion, we would now like to invite our dear family into a shared discussion, and actually to also hear about the work of our wonderful family from Afro ID, and to learn also about the ways that we're actually practically just, what are the realities we're going through, who are we, and to just introduce more aspects of the community work that institutions aren't talking about. The real community work, the late nights, the waking up, the trying to get organized, the phone calls, and the teaching that is going on in our education, especially from the example of Brazil, where it's so important that there is a reclamation of the African presence in Brazil, which has been an essential part of Brazil's even own struggle for liberation. So it's just going to be a nice question and answer, and I'll pass the mic to...
Yeah, so hi Patricia, thank you very much for joining us. So could you tell us a bit more about Afro ID and the work you guys do?
Thank you. I just would like to say thank you to and everyone listeners. My name is Patricia Rocha. I am from the organization Afro ID, and our organization has as a main idea to bring awareness about the influence of African history in Brazil, the influences the African has in Brazil that are so many, and but hasn't been recognized in history. It's like I grew up learning things that is not about my real history. It's not about my people, where I came from, where when they say my people, about Black people, about Black history, and we see like Brazil is very diverse in terms of culture, in terms of people. It has like 56% of the population is Black in Brazil, but however, the Black history has been silenced for so many years. And then our organization, as an aim, we wanted to bring this awareness. This is not happens only in Brazil, it's all over the world, we can see. Although there is the so many academic institution that has know about the history, but however, this is not really recognized. And so I would like invite you on the 20th of November. We are going to celebrate Zumbi. Zumbi was kind of a hero, a black hero. When I say hero, is about he was a big leader, where fighting against slavery and fighting against so many inequality mainly about the slavery. So we are going to our organization is going to celebrate on 20th of November, and I would like to invite all of you. Just follow us on the Instagram, and I would like to support and carry on. It's very important the work we are doing and putting us together to make this go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So there we've just had really concrete examples of the way that miseducation obliterates histories and upholds epistemicide. And so the work of us in communities, with communities, is to reclaim histories and use them and reclaim revolutionary histories towards our liberation, so that we can learn from our revolutionary heroes and sheroes. On Wednesday, it was Indigenous Resistance Day, 12th of October, and we opened with a grounding talking about our ancestors and pouring libations to our revolutionary heroes and sheroes. One of which is, of course, Walter Rodney, hence why we're here in the Walter Rodney Freedom Square. And it's important to reclaim these people and remember them and hold their names up, as well as all the people whose names we don't know, and all the people who have allowed us to be here and who have continued this ancestral mission of resistance, which our generation is now taking up.
So for the rest of today, apart from this wind, which is the ancestors saying Asheo,
Toby,
we're gonna hop into some edutainment and know that we're coming together in learning together, in feeling what we mean when we say we have to come together. And we'll be doing that in global link with our family, not only here in the UK from Walter Rodney Freedom Square, but also to Colombia, to Ghana. So this will be a live and action-packed day of international connections. So that's what we'll be doing from Lao on Live. Give thanks to everyone that's come through, and let's continue to live our planet repairs.